Hi, everyone. We are here tonight, the digital learning coaches, to help you get ready for baseball season. That's why we're in our gear tonight, and to get ready for that ninth inning of the year. We are talking today about ways to stay engaged as you're rounding third base, headed to home plate. You've almost made it. And so we want to help you slide into home base, to home plate with some really fun, engaging ideas that you can do with the students to keep them engaged around first base, second base, then third base until we get to the end of the school year. So if you've joined any of us before, we are a live session that is being recorded. And if you, so we want you to share if you're open to it. Right now it's the four of us coaches, but if somebody else jumps in, we want to have that opportunity to share if you feel comfortable. And if not, you are welcome to just kind of sit back and listen. And with that, we are going to go ahead and jump into introductions, and I'll start with myself. I am Sandy Goehring, and I currently work for Global Special Education Associates as the Director of Recruitment and EL. My past has been an assistant principal for a few years, a teacher, an instructional coach in Noblesville and in Washington Township. I love being a digital learning coach for two main reasons. One, because I always love learning about new tech-inspired ways to enhance my instruction, and also because of the people that you have here today on our screen. I have loved building my connections and growing new friendships and learning from the other digital learning coaches. So, and my favorite baseball team, I actually don't really have one, but I do love watching the Indians, the Indianapolis Indians, and just being able to go downtown and have some good nachos and cheese and some Cracker Jacks on that one night that you don't have to worry about it. So with that, I am going to bounce it over to Melissa.
Okay, we should have done favorite baseball snacks too. That would be good for the games. Okay, thank you for those of us who are tuning in. I'm Melissa Walley. I have been in education for over 20 years, which is really weird because I'm only 22 years old. I work for Hanover Community Schools up in the region. I'm an educational technology specialist in my district. I'm also a board member for HEC, and I'm a digital learning coach for Keep Indiana Learning. I'm really enjoying working with people from all around Indiana and getting to know everybody. And that's how I met Sandy and Dianna and Tim and so many other people that have helped me grow professionally, but I can also now call them friends. So like I said, I live in Northwest Indiana, so we follow the Chicago sports teams. And I know that's a little bit controversial for some people, but it is the truth. So that means there's two teams. Am I a Cubs fan or a White Sox fan? And I think early in my life, I was a White Sox fan, but now I'm a Cubs fan. You just can't beat a game at Wrigley Field. And I'm also going to say that my baseball snack would definitely be nachos and cheese because there's nothing better. So with that, I am going to introduce Dianna.
Hey everybody, I'm Dianna. I am a technology instructional specialist at Clay Community Schools over in Brazil on the west side of the state. I too have been in education for over 20 years, and like Melissa, I'm baffled because I always tell people I'm just 24. But this is my 5th year in this role as a technology specialist, and you know, I've really enjoyed transitioning from the classroom into this role and then serving on the HEC board, and I help co-lead the Indiana Canvas Users and Educators group and the Keep Indiana Learning Digital Coaches, and I'm a Google girl. I love our Indiana GEG group, and the faces of the people that I've always looked up to professionally, and then now I am so lucky to be able to call them friends because there's some really awesome things going on in the state of Indiana. When you travel outside and you talk about education, they're always intrigued about our Keep Indiana Learning movement. So I think that is a fantastic resources for our educators. I definitely love to travel. I have to say, confession, I've never been to a professional baseball game, But I do like the downtown vibe in Indy and the Indianapolis Indians. And I was lucky enough to go watch one of my favorite baseball teams. I taught at Northview High School for many years, and they won a state championship back in 2016. And I got to be there that night, and nothing beats that environment. It was amazing to watch those high school boys and do that winning game. And we got a guy playing for IU now, so I enjoy following up with him. My favorite ballpark snack, I go for the soft pretzel.
Mhm.
So I'm going to throw it over to Tim and let him talk about, I think we all can see who his favorite team is.
Hi, I'm Tim Arnold. I'm a district e-learning specialist from Richmond Community Schools in Richmond, Indiana, the Beast of the East, as they call us. Prior to being at Richmond, I was a social studies teacher and a coach, including a baseball coach at Nettle Creek Schools in Hagerstown, Indiana. Additionally, I was selected as a top 10 educator in the state of Indiana. I taught social studies methods at the Earlham College Master of Arts program. And I presented at multiple local, state, and national conferences, which led me to find this great group at Keep Indiana Learning. And so I recently joined them as a digital learning coach. My mantra for my job in Richmond is I love to serve teachers that serve students. In addition to that, I do play the guitar, which we'll talk about a little bit tonight. I train for triathlons and duathlons. And as far as baseball goes, I grew up in the era of the big red machine. So the Cincinnati Reds all the way, with Johnny Bench and Pete Rose as childhood heroes. And I guess I would add that I am Team Cracker Jack when it comes to baseball snacks.
All right, so for the evening, we kind of thought that a good way to break these down is we're going to talk about the hits you can get in baseball. So we got singles, doubles, triples, and that home run to take us into that final stretch. So I get to start us off with the round one, the singles. And in my former life, I was an English teacher and a Spanish teacher. And something that I put into use, this is a non-techie side. We decided tonight we would really talk about a blend of tech tool infused ideas and non-tech infused. Mine is non-tech to start with. And it was like a communication cascade and flow. So in Spanish, we had a lot of question and answer kind of thing. And you can think about ways that you can modify this for whatever content area you teach, but I would divide my students up into group A and B, and they would stand and face each other and kind of form a line. And group A would ask the question and B would answer it. And then B would cascade around the room and flow in. And so they would kind of move down that line and talk. It lent itself very well to a world language classroom and that communication aspect. But I'm thinking that in an English classroom, you could use it for maybe vocabulary terms, and then one person would have to give them a word and define it, and then the other person might have to use it in a sentence. And answering questions about literature and thinking about social studies, we could talk about dates and corresponding pieces of information that go along with that. You know, the sky's the limit. I would say I would have no ideas for math because I don't have a math brain, but I'm sure there's something that could be put used to that. So that's my single to start us out.
Great. I think I'm next, and I love that you kind of incorporated that academics with the movement. You know, when we're talking about baseball, I think that's great to get kids moving, and right, just actually made me think of maybe that not so great tool that we played when we were kids, where you had to do the flashcards and move around the bases, and whoever could answer fastest, which, but you know, it was fun at the time. And so for mine, my single is, it's mathproblemoftheday.com, and it's the celebrities. So celebrities get on and they do math problems. And so it's really cool to just have the kids coming up, or to be able to share a new way, a creative way to get math problems, something different besides just opening them up out of a book. You know, I always encourage you thinking about the whole child in your classroom and really thinking about your group of students and making sure that what you are sharing during your word problems is something that they can connect to, making sure it's not counting fence posts on the farm if you are in an inner city school. That's not going to help kids understand it. But, you know, as always, preview those and see if there's one that you could really find to share with your students. And then maybe a cool way as you finish the year is to have your own school celebrities. Different teachers around the building create their own word problems that you can share, and even incorporate your own camera crew where the kids can go out and catch the celebrities sharing their word problems, and then celebrity students, and just thinking about how you could pull that together. Or if you're like Dianna, maybe you could find some way to get that IU baseball player to share a problem of the day and bring it back to your school. So this is just an idea, simple. It's just out on YouTube, or it's out on their website, an idea to pull up some other ways to get math problems and then extend it to your school and community celebrities. Tim, what's your single?
Well, I'm going to start off with fun Google Slides templates. So if you're looking for a way to engage kids, there are tons of free Google Slides templates out there, and you can adapt them and apply them to your content. I'm talking about like TikTok slides. So the slide they're developing, a TikTok, or they're developing an Instagram on an Instagram slide, or a Snapchat slide. Actually, one of my favorites is the Yelp review slide. If you really want to get into a certain type of writing or some technical writing, there's also one that looks exactly like the home screen on Netflix. So any of those fun Google Slides templates that just spices up some of the content that you're doing, maybe after testing is done for the year, maybe it's some content you're not particularly crazy about personally, but you'd like to get kids engaged and excited, give them a format that looks like something they're already connected with. TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Yelp, Netflix, and probably things I don't even know about yet because I'm old and I haven't even seen them. So that would be my single. How about who's next? Melissa.
I am. Okay, so my single is a meme challenge, which I think most kids, most students of all ages know what a meme is. They think they're funny. Most adults kind of think they're funny. So if you're not familiar with a meme challenge, it can be done as loosely or as teacher directed as you choose. It can be done with elementary students all the way up to high school. So you can have a specific topic, such as like create a meme based on a vocabulary word, or like create a meme based on a novel maybe that you're reading. But with this type of challenge, you have to be very specific with your guidelines and expectations. So, and then one way to level up the assignment is maybe have students share with one another. They can share via Flipgrid, or you could have a shared slide deck, or you can even just share during class where you're presenting the actual memes that they're creating. And then you could do a vote, declare a winner, however that, whatever that looks like. And it's usually a popular activity and brings out some laughter and fun in class.
I love
Diana, I saw the lights went out. You're at school.
I'm sitting in a classroom and I sat still for too long.
Melissa, I love that you involved Flipgrid. I was thinking of Flipgrid when Sandy was talking about her math problems of the day or celebrity problems. I mean, what a great way to allow people in your school or people that you know in your community to easily record something and get it in a format that's usable at school.
Right.
So I love seeing Flipgrid used in that way.
Yeah.
I like that too, because then it's always going to be centrally located. It's going to be there for forever that you can easily find. I love that idea, Tim.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now our singles are done and now we're on to our doubles. So Sandy.
Yes, made it round first, heading into second base. And this one again is just another video type thing to share with your students. And I found this on the We Are Teachers page a few years ago, and it's just they curated a group of kids' favorite videos on how things are made. So how are crayons made? How are Legos made? How's toilet paper made? And so to be able to share this video and then engage in a discussion, bring in articles that you can read about it, do research on what that item is and how it was and the why. Bring in math problems again with it. When I think about crayons and how crayons are made, you could do math problems with crayons in a box, or how many crayons might be in the entire classroom if everybody has a certain amount of a certain pack. art, bringing in the different art pieces, doing STEM challenges with them. You know, how is toilet paper made? Okay, learn how it's made, and then let's test the strength of different toilet papers. I just think it's a fun way to be able to spark a conversation and kick off a lesson that maybe is outside of your typical lesson that you've been doing. You know, that time, this is the time of year where you have to get creative. So, you know, I'm looking at one of them is baseballs. How are baseballs made? Well, great. That could launch us into an entire unit covering our standards, but around this one baseball video. So I love these ideas. I like that they're quirky. I like that they are from a different wide range. And, you know, it also makes me think about having them come up with their own, how was something made, and doing that video. I know in high school for speech class one year, we had to pick something to discuss, and I decided to figure out who invented the Post-it note and did a whole speech on that and used Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion, I think is what it was called. Terrible. It was a terrible speech, but you know, that was back then, and now they could do some really cool things with it. So that is my second base. And Melissa, I think I'm going to you next.
Yes. So I think for my double will be sketchnoting. Sketchnoting now, that's something I've always personally wanted to get into, and I just haven't made the leap. But I think sketchnoting with students is really important. Sketchnoting is basically visual note taking, and it's not just doodling and it's not just drawing, but it allows the listener to supplement their written notes with drawn images in order to reinforce their concepts, and it really helps them connect their ideas. And it's actually, there's research behind it. It helps them synthesize, and then later they can use those notes to study, and it helps them remember, oh, this drawing meant this. It uses those visuals to recreate and condense pages of notes into one snapshot as they review. So allowing students to sketch note the actual process increases their comprehension and memory. So one way to start, how I would start, is to start by listening to like a short video or a podcast and have them write out just something that stands out to them, either a thought or a phrase, and then draw icons. Just start with drawing simple icons. They don't have to be an artist. It doesn't have to be perfect. And there's so many resources online to use with students. Carrie Bauckham has a YouTube channel to help get started. And then Manuel Herrera has one as well. And both of those resources are excellent. And Keep Indiana Learning actually has a video with Manuel on their YouTube channel. That video is directed more at teacher creativity, but it would help spark some just some ideas for you as a teacher. It really goes into like, don't feel overwhelmed when you get started. So if you look at just drawing a triangle, all the different things that a triangle could be. So when you're drawing, you're just drawing shapes. It's not so overwhelming that it has to be perfect. But like I said, it might be fun to try it as an adult, and it could be a good way to de-stress. So that is my double. I know Diane and I had talked a couple of years ago about getting into sketchnoting. I was never really successful, but after watching those videos, I think that Carrie Bauckham has something for every Saturday. She does a short video, and you're supposed to follow along. And that's something I'm like, oh, maybe I'll actually try that.
I went to one of her sessions at ISTE one year, and it was really good. And Sylvia Duckworth has a bunch of information on sketchnoting too. I bought one of her books. My hang up is I get hung up on my perfectionist and the drawing. I'm not a good artist. So I don't know if you saw in one of the Keep Indiana Learning blasts recently, they had quick draw, and it's a Google Analytics, and it kind of just gets you thinking. And I sent it out to our teachers as a brain break. But I thought if anybody's wanting to start sketchnoting, that is a really good place to get started with some rudimentary, like, you don't get hung up on your art skills, because it's just to like recognize that it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to resemble it. And then that could segue right into like even maybe more concentrated sketchnoting.
Yeah, but like I always felt like when I was in the classroom, this time of the year is a good time to just like dip your toe in the water of something to see, is this something next year I really want to roll out as an initiative? Or is this something like, okay, I tried it, it's, you know, something to do here or there, but you know, I'm not sure if I really want to make this a common practice. So something like sketchnoting would be perfect to try like that. Okay, and next we have Tim. Oh, you're muted, Tim.
I am. Thank you very much. Before I start, I want to go back and comment on Sandy's because I know that I'm older than everybody else on here, because my favorite day in school was the day the teacher would roll in the reel-to-reel projector. This is before we had any technology in the school. And so the reel-to-reel projector meant a hot dog film was coming out. And those films are all about how things were made. They're old reel-to-reel films. Fascinating. I was so excited every time that happened. And she took me right back there. So it's good to know that those are on YouTube and I can revisit those.
Okay, wait, I know I'm only 22, but somehow I had those reel-to-reel movies in my classroom as well. I don't remember a hot dog one, but now that you say that, I remember on Mr. Rogers how crayons are made. And that was my favorite Mr. Rogers episode. So Sandy, yes, I think you were onto something.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. On to my double. For my double, I'm gonna say virtual field trips or mystery, what we used to call mystery Skypes. For virtual field trips, great time of year to try that. You know, let's say that the students have spent half their day testing. Why not try something like this? My current favorite for virtual field trips is Nearpod. If you are a Nearpod user, imagine taking your kids to the Taj Mahal, the pyramids of Giza, maybe the Washington Monument, maybe the Great Wall of China, whatever you choose, all from the comfort of your classroom. And it works, it's device agnostic. It works on iPads, Chromebooks, Macs, PCs, whatever you happen to have in your district. And there are over 450 virtual field trips in Nearpod. And so I think that's an excellent way to get kids started thinking about the world around them, maybe traveling. And you don't have to go around the world. There are tons of them on national parks or things that are even closer. Before Google Expeditions shut down on us, I actually had a group of students that built a VR trip to some of the fun places to visit in our community. And we went around and built those and wrote the text for it. And then we kind of lost a place to host that. But we did have quite a few hits from our community prior to that service closing down. And then the other part of this would be the old, what we used to call the old terminology, a mystery Skype, where you have a secret guest or a secret thing or a secret place. And students are interacting with one another, sometimes across the world, sometimes across the state. They're practicing their questioning skills. They're learning how to deduce. They're learning how to discover. And there's so many ways that you can use mystery, what used to be Skype, now maybe mystery Meet or mystery Zoom, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have to be a place or a thing or a person, or it doesn't have to be guessing where I am. It could be a mystery number. You know, any of those things. Actually, Matt Miller on his Ditch That Textbook site has a wonderful link to all kinds of resources. It includes things like job titles for kids, so that you kind of have, if you're going to interact with another classroom or somewhere else in the world, you kind of have some guidelines to follow, and different students have different jobs, and it really makes for an exciting situation. I've used this with teachers and I've used it with elementary students, and they just jump around and scream because they're so excited about, you know, what they're going to figure out or what they're going to learn or what they're going to try to deduce along the way. So either one of those, virtual field trips or mystery Zooms, mystery Skypes.
I like that. I think, especially like in our rural district, the mystery field trips, you know, some of our kids don't get to travel outside of Indiana. And so showing them great things in our country, national parks or around the world, what a gift to give them to kind of inspire some curiosity and some goals for the future. So I'm up next. My double is going to kind of piggyback on a piece of advice that Melissa said. This is the time of year to dip your toes in and experiment with something. Because what I found is my kids were willing, again, I taught secondary, but my kids were willing to be my guinea pigs. And I'd say, I want to try something new. I have an idea. They used to get scared when Senorita said that because it was going to be a crapshoot. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but at least it gave us something to start with. So we talk a lot about Canva right now, and some people have just said, oh man, that sounds great, but I'm not going to go there because I'm going to get overwhelmed. Well, there are some search terms that you can use to find some templates that are ready-made for you to use in class. So there would be brainstorming ideas or KWL charts, or you could have them do some note-taking. And by just going in and finding these templates, you can push those out to your students to complete and then upload to you. It would be the same kind of thing that you are comfortable doing, but you're going to do it in a different format than you've tried that might be more engaging, because Canva has those fun templates that already look awesome that I didn't have to go through the effort of preparing. And I think sometimes just that little shift of mixing up what something traditional looks like for our kids reels them back in. And they forget that, oh yeah, I've done this before and I thought I was bored of it, but this one's kind of fun. So that's my double for the day.
I like that. Well, and I something's hanging with me that Tim said. The idea of the kids getting so excited that they're jumping around the classroom. And that is what we need at this time of year. That's what we need as educators, is we need to feel that excitement. We need to see the kids doing that, because they are in the thick of testing here coming up, and they're almost as tired as we are. So, that was so important. And then I was also thinking with that mystery field trip, I love that idea. And, it's too bad we didn't do this like a couple of weeks ago before everybody went on spring break, because you could have done something with like kind of a flat Stanley type of idea where the teachers are recording a flip grid, going back to Flipgrid of where they're at, their secret location, where they're at for spring break, and, taking some videos and some pictures, and, if they're open to recording themselves, and then how fun would that have been for the school to try and figure out where these mystery spring break trips were. So maybe next year or over the summer, putting it out before summer. And if people travel over the summer, that would be kind of cool.
I think that's a really important point, Sandy, because it doesn't have to be live. A lot of people think that you have to do these things live, and you really don't. You can, record yourself giving in front of a certain place and give 5 clues and pause after each one. And, it's not live. You just did it while you were in that spot. Let's say you're in Key West, Florida, and you're at the southernmost point, and you just give clue 1, and then you pause it and let the kids discuss it and try to figure it out and go on to the next one. I think that's a really great way to do that, where you don't have to have connections all over the world or all over the state or all over the country, and have the times match up and they're available in their classroom when your kids are and things like that. So yeah, that's a great idea.
All right. I think I'm taking us to third base. All right. We hitting a triple. And clearly, as I'm kind of thinking back on what I shared today, I was really into the videos apparently. So I am sharing storylineonline.net. And that one actually just came out today in our Keep Indiana Learning newsletter, if you receive that. But storylineonline.net is celebrities reading books, reading great children's literature. And I think, again, that is wonderful, because sometimes they need to switch it up. I'm not saying that it needs to replace the teacher doing a read aloud. There's nothing more important than a teacher reading to their students, in my opinion. But what a neat way to have a celebrity come and read your book to you for the day. And, if you're the little ones, you can even trick them into thinking that it's live and they're specifically reading to your class only. But, I think that being able to have them see a cool face that they see on TikTok or, in a movie that also loves to read books or puts out that image that I value reading, is so important again this time of year, because our kids need that boost to keep reading and that launch into reading over the summer. And so to be able to show them that reading is important, and look, Taylor Swift thinks reading is important too. I think that is critical this time of year, and a good way too to drop it onto a Wakelet or something that you can share with your students so that they can listen to them throughout the summer on their own devices. So that is my third base. Dianna.
I love that idea, because I like you said, conveying that a message of the importance of reading, that it's valued by somebody that they like and respect and revere. I think that's important. But then also, some of those entertainers have just such a presence about them when they read. I'm passionate about reading, but I'm not an entertainer. And so I don't have that knack and that nuance for timing like some people do. So how engaging is that? My triple for the night is something I did back when I taught speech classes, but I was thinking that it could be used in other areas. Now, I think I am one of those people that I think communication is so important. And right now, when we're in this digitally centered world, I feel like sometimes we're losing interpersonal communication, and our students really need to be kind of brought out of that shell. And so speech class was probably one of my favorite things that I taught in my career. And impromptu speeches, I had the most fun with. And it's, public speaking is people's number one fear for a pretty valid reason. It makes people very uncomfortable. And I think that today's students probably maybe even have a little bit more anxiety about that than people in the past. But I tried to make it fun. And so we did impromptu speeches, but it wasn't just your normal impromptu speech. We would take a topic and they would have to speak for 30 seconds. So I might draw monkeys out of the hat, and I would speak for 30 seconds. And we focused on that core piece of like, have a little intro statement, talk about it. And then at 30 seconds, I would say time, and student number 2 drew a topic out of the hat, and they had to make a segue from monkeys to pink cheese. And then they spoke about pink cheese for 30 seconds. And then student 3 picked up and they had to talk about Yellowstone. And so on and so forth, until we worked our way through the class. And it taught the students to laugh at themselves. It taught the students that they could have some fun, but they were still really focused on honing those public speaking skills. But because they weren't taking themselves so seriously, they really had some learning there. So, but I was thinking, like, I could even do the same thing with maybe some vocabulary words, with literary terms, with topics in history. Maybe if I'm going to talk about Civil War, I could take different battles and we could switch between the battles and talk about those. So there's all sorts of information that you could do and segue with that, because again, you're switching it up, you're getting the students on their feet, they're kind of talking, they could all kind of be, they could be in a circle as they do this. So it's not that formal, intimidating, sit and stare at a group of people that you're speaking to. You're kind of playing with that interactively and having a good time with it.
I love that, Dianna. And what stands out to me with that activity is not only are they having fun with it, but they're also breaking down their wall, like they're letting down their guard and building relationships with one another through something like that. And that's just going to help for them to be able to build trust. And then that's where the learning happens. So I love that activity. I think that could apply to just about any content area in any grade. How fun. Okay, so my triple third base activity is a gallery walk. And I actually participated in this as a learner at CISC, Central Indiana Educational Service Center. And that was the first place I learned about this. So it was just a few years ago. And the way that I participated in it was there was chart paper up around the room. And I believe there was readings around, and we had to read a portion, and then we had to comment on it just with, I think we had Post-its and we had to comment and then stick our thoughts on there.
Weren't
our
there
reflection.
quotes and like statistics and things too? Because I think I was there with you. Was this our technology
was.
leadership cadre?
Yes. Yes. And so we had to just go around, kind of read it. We were just quiet, but you could interact with one another and you just had to read, comment, and stick up your reflection. And I thought it was a great way, instead of sitting silently reading and then writing up a big reflection, it was nice to get up, have that movement, and just, read it, reflect, and then we could read each other's, comment on each other's by attaching Post-it notes. I really liked that. And I think with a gallery walk, it doesn't have to be something big that they have to read and reflect upon. It could be a picture, it could be a quote. There's a lot there. It could be math problems that they complete and then stick up their answers. There's a lot of different ways that you could do it, but I think it's just different. If it's math problems, it's different. If they're just walking around, they could also complete their answers in a group, and one person could have a clipboard and they're filling out their answers on a worksheet and turning it in. They could do that individually as well. So there's just different ways that you can do it, but I just think a gallery walk this time of year would be just a little bit different than the mundane sit in your chair and get through class.
Melissa,
So-
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there before. What I really love about gallery walks too is, one, it's easy to differentiate for them. So if I have a student that maybe could only do drawing and maybe is having a tricky time with word output, you can do that. And then I've also used them as a way to secretly assess or not assess, but grasp level of understanding for students by giving them a different color, or assigning them, even at the beginning of the year, a different color of marker, and having on my paper, Sandy is orange, so that I know when we do a gallery walk or when you're with a group that comment that is orange is coming from Sandy, so I can see where she's at on the road to understanding. Sorry.
That's good. I didn't think of that, but yeah, I like that. And it could be Post-its too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To me, this is a great example of one of those that you could easily do with technology, like a Jamboard, but I don't know that it's better. I think the physical movement that you get is way better than anybody, adult or kids, sitting in their chair and dragging over a electronic Post-it note and typing something on it. Why not be up and moving around? So,
Right.
like we said before, just because you can do it with technology doesn't make it the best way to do it if you've got a more effective way to do it. And I think this is definitely one of those.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think it's me. Time for my triple. And I guess I stayed on theme because this is not technological at all. Mine is called Human Tic-Tac-Toe. So imagine, if you will, students enter your room for the day and they see 9 chairs in the middle. All desks and tables are pushed aside. Now, when I use this, I use it as a review game with 2 teams, but you can modify it any way you want. So think of those 9 chairs, 3 rows of 3. 2 teams. Team 1, student 1, seeks to answer a question that I ask. If they answer correctly, they take a seat anywhere they want in those 9 chairs. Think of it as a tic-tac board, or a tic-tac-toe board, excuse me. And then we go to team 2, student 1. They answer a question. If they get it right, they then get to choose a seat, but they've got to choose a seat based on where the other person sat. So you're playing a game of tic-tac-toe while you're reviewing content information. Next person, next seat. If you miss a question, you can either go to the next person on that team, or you can switch back to the other team. Either way, but it's another one of those situations where kids get animated, they get loud, but they're focusing on content. I had a teacher come in one time and watch this and said, well, why do you let them use their notes? Well, why not? We could do it either way. We could do it without notes, but my intent was to get them into the content. So if they've got the content in their hands and they're using it to prepare for whatever assessment, I was okay with that, but you can do it any way you want. I think you can modify it. I've seen times where people are answering the question at the same time, but then they race to the chair. I wasn't really ready for that part because just too many head-on collisions, but that's just me. Do it any way you want, but human tic-tac-toe is one of those non-technological things that I think will serve you well if you give it a shot.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. And I wouldn't have thought of that ever, but
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's good. I could see the racing, the racing for the chair being a
They
problem.
get so competitive, don't they? It's amazing. I love it when they do that. And something Tim said, they're not quiet. And we've let go of that. A quiet room as we're learning is happening. Sometimes in the most chaotic room that to the unobserved eye or that they walk by, they might think that it's absolute chaos and there's not anything going on, but really that's where the magic is happening.
It's good noise.
It's time for our home runs.
Home runs. All right, I'll go first. Okay, so my home run, something that's near and dear to my heart, escape rooms. So I personally have used Breakout EDU. I like digital and physical kits. The digital ones, of course, are using a device and the students just complete it on, it's electronic. It's more of a solo activity. It could be done with a partner or a group, but students are doing it all on the device. I personally like the physical kits better because students actually they're going around the room, finding clues. There's locks and there's keys. They have to find clues. It just seems more real. And it seems, I don't want to use the word gimmicky because that's wrong, but it's just more of an authentic experience for students. It's a great way to review or practice skills and concepts. Like I said, there's a lot of collaboration, and that can be very hard for kids because some of them, they want to be the one that opens the lock. There will always, with elementary, there will almost always be a student that instantly goes over to that combination lock and sits, and they think they're just going to turn it and turn it and turn it until they get the right lock or get the right combination. And they think that that is the key instead of actually doing the work. I also find it interesting when the students that are used to getting the answers right struggle the most with something like an escape room because they're not used to thinking outside of the box. That can be very hard for kids that are used to just knowing the right answer. But escape rooms develop problem solving and critical thinking skills. It builds communication skills, and it develops some of those soft skills like perseverance. So if you've already used them and your students are very familiar, they could start creating escape rooms too. So that would be the next level. But I think, escape rooms are always a home run. That's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Next up, anybody want to chime in?
Yeah, I want to chime in. I absolutely love I've used both, but I love the physical boxes like you. This is the number one thing, the number one way for me as an e-learning specialist to find my way into a teacher's classroom. This has been the number one thing that has gotten them to invite me in. Oh, you mean you'll build one of those and bring it and stay with me all day and we'll run it? Yes, I will. Absolutely will. And you're right. It's the resiliency and the persistence and the grit that kids build because they're going to fail over and over again, but they learn that it's okay because we're going to succeed. Or if we don't, it's okay because we're going to learn from it. One of the things that I think is sometimes missed, but is the most important part, is the debriefing questions that you do after it's over. And a lot of times that gets cut because you're short on time or you're trying to build it for the next class. But I would encourage anybody who has any interest in these at all, give them a shot, give them a try, but really focus on that debriefing at the end, because that's when you learn a lot about your kids and a lot about their struggles and a lot about the theories and the ways they were trying to solve the problem. And the conversations are usually very rich at that point. So yeah, this is definitely a home run for me.
I'm with you on the physical. I love them. I'm not going to say I love them both. I am okay with the digital. I think sometimes it's confusing for me. Like, I don't know. I assigned it one time as an independent work through Canvas virtually, and my parents messaged me back and were like, that was really hard. Please don't do that again. And I hear that and I respect that. I love it. I love Breakout. I love the physical, like the physical. It's fun. It's cool, you know? And so, yeah, I love Breakout.
I'm with you, Sandy, about the parents messaging. We had that situation and it was a kindergarten class with a kindergarten breakout, and the parents were saying it was too hard. And it's just because it's a different way of thinking. And the benefit of when you're doing a whole class, I've done it with kindergarten to where I was modeling a digital one in the class. And so we just did a whole group. And the benefit was that they're hearing each other talk about it and come up with their ideas to get their mind thinking, oh, this is how it's working. Where if you're sitting by yourself, you don't know, you're only thinking one way. You're not hearing those other ways. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
Well, and it's a good lesson too, as a teacher and an ongoing reflector. You know, I thought, hey, I'm going to do something fun for they've had a really good week. Let's do something fun. And I didn't set them up for success. So that's another great point too, is, you know, we should have done more of that collaboratively. And so, you know, that's, I think, where you have to be that ongoing reflector as an educator too. This was on me. I get that. So. Yeah.
Okay, so Sandy, what is your home run?
Well, I decided to actually switch it while I was sitting here. So I was going to say podcasts and 6-minute podcasts and kidslisten.org. But and originally when I was thinking about this, I had this one as a single, but you know, I kind of feel like it's a simple home run, and it's something that we all probably learned back. Well, not for you, Melissa and Diana, that were just out of college because you're 22 and 23. But, you know, for those of us that have been doing this for 19 years as well and aren't 22 and 23, those that you learn in college. And those are those simple classroom celebrations. And I know that sounds really basic right now, but we forget about those and we say, good job, Tim. You know, way to go, Diana. Proud of you, Melissa. Instead of, let's go ahead and bring back that silly like roller coaster that we all ride together. Woo! And celebrate Diana for her hard work. Or, hey, Tim, you scored, your data increased by this amount of points. I don't care if you passed or not, but your data increased. Let's do a run through tunnel right now. And I'll celebrate Tim for his hard work and effort. And we're all going to line up and he's going to run through. Or, hey, Melissa, wow, for what you did today when you were sharing your sketchnoting. I'm so proud of you for trying it out. Let's give Melissa a ketchup bottle. You know, those little simple celebrations that the kids love. But by this time of year, we're like, I don't have time for a run through tunnel. I don't have time to give you a wow. Like, that's silly anyways. Or my kids are in high school. They don't want to ride the roller coaster. Yes, they do. You know, they want that. So, and even this time of year, if you haven't done it already, each kid come up with their own celebration and we all learn that. And then when it's time, you know, we all hit the home run for Tim because that's what he wanted to do. Or, you know, Sandy makes the 3. So Sandy did a great job. Everybody shoot the 3. I had to switch it up because it's the movement piece. It's fun, and it's one of those things that is very basic, but this time of year we brush it to the side because we've got to test and get to the end of the year. So just maybe remembering those simple celebrations.
I think that is the relationships too. I think that goes back to the relationships. It's not just testing. It's not just assignments. This is about me as a student. This is, you know, my teacher said this about me. My class appreciated me. Yeah, I love it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great. And I think, like, you know, there's this focus on intentional gratitude. and it's taking that moment to have those intentional celebrations, because it's so easy to get caught up in the have tos, need tos. And we need to focus on what we should do's, because by building them up in that little tiny way that seems tiny to us, it's very significant to those students. So.
All right, Diana, I think you are next for your home run.
Okay, so my home run, you could make it a tech-infused activity or a tactile-infused activity. And it is dice breakers and dice debriefs and different things you can do with dice. So there are platforms you can have where you can pull up that you can roll dice digitally. When I was still in the classroom, I had a baggie of die or dice I would bring out and do for different activities. So one of my favorite ones that I did, again, in Spanish, certain lists lent themselves to this. So I would assign a number like if you rolled a 1, you had to pronounce the word correctly. If you rolled a 2, you had to define the word or translate the word. If you rolled a 3, you had to use it in a sentence. If you rolled a 4, you had to act the word out. A 5 was maybe draw it. And 6, I can't remember what 6 was, but there are lots of things that you can do with dice or die to get your students engaged. And I came across an article, and I get a blast from TCEA, Texas Computer Education Association, or Educators Association, I think. And this caught my eye, and I really thought it was fantastic, because it's not too early to even start thinking about the beginning of next year and forming relationships with students. And you can do the dice breakers. I'm thinking in terms of even some professional development to get to know people when I've got all my new teachers together this summer. But there are ways, like with the dice debrief, that you can break down a lesson. Like in the dice debrief, I can roll a 1 and share something new I learned today. Roll 2, I make 2 observations about what was discussed. Roll 3 big ideas from today's learning, and so on and so forth. The teacher I was working with this evening, we were trying to make heads or tails of the textbook series that we adopted and getting it to integrate with Canvas appropriately. And we are frustrated. So we took a brain break and we looked at this, and I said, she was trying to get her students to write, and she was having trouble coming up with some good journaling activities. And there were even journal and topic ideas that you could use for that. Like, so if I rolled a 1, I would maybe have to talk about my favorite story or book. If I rolled a 5, I could talk about my favorite television show. And, thinking about parlaying that, it could be a journal writing, or it could even be like a public speaking activity where they need to do some type of an impromptu speech with the roll of the dice. So I think dice can be a powerful asset to a lesson if you just can figure out how to make it fit with your content area, your age of students, and what you're doing.
Nice. Okay. So for the final home run of the evening, I'm going to go with a hook from the Dave Burgess Teach Like a Pirate book. He has all this whole section on all these hooks to get kids, hook them, engage them, and so you can teach them. And my favorite of all of them is the Mozart or the music hook. And so what I found is it never fails. Here are some of the options that I've used. Number 1, let students create a school appropriate playlist of their favorites. And if they achieve what you want them to achieve for the week, we're going to listen to your playlist. Here we go. Or if it's just, hey, you were great before lunch, we're going to listen to your playlist as we head out and when we come back, whatever that might be. Number 2, this was one I just remembered as we were sitting here talking. I did a thing where my kids were working on academic writing, but they were working on like the peanut butter and jelly type DBQ response. And if they had, whoever they voted had the best piece of evidence attached to what they wrote, I would get out the song, the big loud song by POD called Here Comes the Boom. And they would come to the podium and they would read their piece of evidence, and then we would just blast that song out until, just the chorus, and then we'd shut it off. And then the next kid, who wants to bring the academic boom? And they, some were too shy, but some loved it. They would come up and do it just because they wanted to hear the loud music in school. Third, if you have some musical talents, show them off for your kids. Don't be afraid of that. If you play an instrument, bring it. In my case, it would be a guitar. I'm not great, but I can play a little bit. So I would teach kids a very simple song. And then we would take that song and I would assign them to write their own lyrics based on the content we were studying. And so we sang the chorus, and the whole class sings the chorus with them, and they would be writing at least 2 verses. And then we would just go around the room, and they were usually in groups, small groups. They could do it by themselves if they wanted, but we really had a lot of fun singing that stuff. And I've done that with, I think I did it this year with 5th graders, but I've done it all, 7th and even 11th graders. And they might say they don't like it, but they like it. They like hearing it. And occasionally you find a kid that's got some musical ability and says, can I bring in my guitar? Absolutely, bring it in. But let's say you don't have any musical talent. That's okay too. Number 4 is, if you can't sing or play, don't worry about it. Head over to YouTube. There's this guy, there's many of these, but my favorite is a guy named Mr. Betts Class. And if you look at Mr. Betts Class, Betts on YouTube, he has all these songs that he's done exactly that too, where he has taken a modern song, one that kids would know, and applied it to some content. Now, in his case, it's mostly history, which is what I taught. But let's say you're teaching about the Oregon Trail. How about a Post Malone song, Better Now parody? He puts it out there. And again, he would, by his own admission, say, I'm not great, but he's fantastic. Matter of fact, if I could do that, that would be my dream job. I would just do that all the time. If you're teaching about FDR's New Deal, how about an Uptown Funk remix? He's got just dozens and dozens of these that are out there. So you don't have to feel like you have to be able to do it to be able to express that to your kids. So get your kids dancing in the aisle, get them singing, let them share what's interesting to them. That Mozart hook, that is my home run.
That's awesome. I would like to come to your class.
That's what I was going to say. I want to be in your class.
So cool. Well, and I like to, because what you threw in there at the end, I've always said to my kids, I will do almost anything in class. I will dance, I will act, I will flip, I will not sing or draw. Like, those are my 2 things. And so to have somebody that has that ability, I mean, that's the coolest. So that's awesome.
I love it.
Yep. Okay, well, with that,
One thought, I'm sorry. I wrote this down, and it was after something Dianna said. And I know we're getting ready to wrap up, but after listening to all of these, and I really just feel like, I'm going to throw in some baseball in here. I really feel like we hit a grand slam tonight. because all of these things that we talked about were a way to hide content and standard into a non-traditional form, into something that was alternative and fun, without sitting there and opening up a book, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but we all know this time of year, kids are not going to be actively engaged with you doing that. They might look like they're engaged because they're sitting there staring at an open book, but they're not actively engaged. So I just feel like everything we did tonight, it wasn't about just fun. It was ways to embed content and standards into an alternative, exciting, fun way. So that's why I really think we all made the all-star team tonight.
Great baseball analogies. I love it.
Yeah, not the bad news bears. Well, with that, we are very excited for our next and last for the year Keep Indiana Chatting session on May 10th. And that one, we're going to be talking about Indiana's many different flavors of professional learning this summer. So we're going to have an ice cream theme. We hope to see all of you in May, and then we will be ready for summer.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
Thank you.